Okay, good. So this is, we called it Winter Session 3, and we do know it's March, but at least in the Baltics, it still doesn't feel a lot like spring, so we'll still call it the Winter Session. Hopefully it will change soon. Today we have 3 things for you. First of all, we are really excited to have a special person with us who will tell you a story of a biotechnology startup from Riga. We will also have an intro mini lecture into the ins and outs of intellectual property by Igor, one of our Biocatalyst team members. And finally, we will tell you a little bit more about the next steps, the deliverables, and have a QA session about what might happen next. And as usual, in total, it will take about 50 to 60 minutes. All right, so without further ado, let's move on to our first part. And you might remember Anna Ramata-Stunda from the very first Biocatalyst session, the kickoff back in November. And today we are really glad to have her with us to tell the story of Alternative Plants, which is her biotech startup. This is not the only thing that she's involved with, as you also might remember. And so I will ask Anna. Anna, you're here, right? I can see you. And you're muted.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Anna. Thanks for joining us. Do you have a slide deck? Should I make you the host?
Well, yeah, I have a couple of slides, so I can share. So maybe for someone it's easier to follow.
All right. So now I will give the privilege to you. Mm-hmm. And now we should be able to share the screen, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. So hello, everyone. So Biocatalyst team invited me to share a story, and I will shortly introduce some of you already know, but to those who do not know who we are and what we're doing. So Alternative Plants is a biotech startup company from Riga here in Latvia. We were established in 2017, and since then, we call ourselves cellular farmers because we're producing plant active ingredients, but we do that without growing the plant. Why did we do that, and how did it all started? It started with the collaboration that my team and I myself, we had with companies here from Latvia, from abroad. We provided consultancy and testing services to companies who were developing skincare products, medical devices, and those that involved use of specific plant-derived ingredients. Working with those companies and collaborating with them and working with the R&D people from those companies, we clearly saw the challenges that they're facing. And there are several challenges that we saw that that are unsolved, and where we can provide our knowledge as a solution, and where we could use our knowledge and the skills that are complementary in our team to overcome those obstacles. So the challenges that cosmetic industry, and not actually only the cosmetic industry, is having, so all the industries that are using plant-derived ingredients, is that there are still resources that are not accessible, meaning that we have thousands of molecules from the plants characterized, but it's been estimated that it's roughly just about 15% of all plant-derived bioactive molecules that we know today. And why is it so? It's so because also some of those plants are inaccessible, meaning they are endangered, they are rare, and those that are known, they're overexploited. That's they're gathered too much in the wild, they're cultured. That's their like genetic resources are depleted, and the habitats are depleted due to the industrial activities. And those resources, some of them are inaccessible because of the source where they are found in the nature, and even those that are accessible today, due to the massive use of those resources, they might become extinct and inaccessible in the future. The other thing is that even if plant-derived ingredients we see as something cheap ingredients that are not just synthetic, not a very high added value, it still requires a lot of resources to manufacture them. We need the soil to grow plants, we need water, we need fossil fuels, and etc. And there is growing demand that also is not met due to all the previous obstacles that I already mentioned. And the third one, also very important to manufacturers of medical devices and cosmetics, is that the consistency and the quality of plant-derived ingredients, they vary from season to season. There is a risk from pollutants in the soil that they could appear in the product, and etc. And this all these aspects was really, and is still today, something that manufacturers are facing, and that these factors are something that they're considering when they're developing new products and they're choosing new ingredients. We saw a solution. Our solution was to make a process that's fully controllable and that's fully consistent with unchangeable, with invariable quality, and in the same time provides a high efficiency in producing plant-derived ingredients, plant-derived compounds. So our solution, what it is, our solution is growing plant cell cultures or plant stem cell cultures. We see it, and we have proven that it's one of the most effective ways to access botanical ingredients. And using this method, we can access all those ingredients that are really scarce and that are very difficult or impossible to source in the nature. In addition, there are options knowing the biochemistry of the plant, knowing the biochemistry of the synthesis of specific compounds. There is an option that we can use very fine-tuned tools to boost the production of desired compounds, and we can get quantities and yields that we could never get from the plants in the wild. And we can do all that without any genetic modifications. And the technology, it's by the United Nations, the plant cultivation technology is named among the most sustainable technologies for production of some specific classes of compounds. And as it's highly standardized, as we do that at the laboratory, we do that in the bioreactors, we're not affected by soil quality, by air quality, by seasonality. So we're running several production cycles per year, that's many production cycles per year actually, and they're all consistent. They're not affected by external variable factors that could affect plants that we're growing in the field, in agriculture, or in the greenhouses even. How do we do that? We take this is a general schematic drawing on the work that we have done and we're continuously doing for establishment of new cell cultures. We're taking a very tiny sample of the plant, and this meaning that we need just a tiny sample that allows us to use endangered species as well. So, and we take them to laboratory, use specific methods to establish a cell line. It takes actually a lot of time and a lot of efforts and work to establish a cell line, to characterize, to choose the best cell lines for production. And then we scale up. We scale up to bioreactors to different volumes, and from the cell biomass that we grow in the bioreactors, we extract those valuable compounds. Currently at Alternative Plants, we have cultures of 6 different medicinal plants established. 2 of them are already scaled and are used for production of cosmetic active ingredients, and those we're producing using those 2 lines. We're producing actually 3 different ingredients that are already on the market. So what are the products, and what is actually what we are selling to our customer? It's not the technology, it's not the know-how, it's not the cell biomass itself. We're selling a cosmetic ingredient. And what is a cosmetic ingredient? That is an extract or a fraction of compounds rich in characterized and specific compounds that have their biological activity, and that we sell along with efficacy data. That means that actually we're providing to our client a solution or a powder, depending on the form that they provide. But what they buy actually from us, they're buying the data. They're buying the data, how the ingredient works. And that is, they're confident that after adding that ingredient to a cream, to a lotion, to a wound care product, probably in the near future for a medical device market, that this ingredient will work, and they know how it will work. So that's a big part of our R&D activities are devoted also not only on establishment and characterization of plant cell lines, but also to testing of the compounds that we get from those plant cell lines, to really prove how they work, in what aspect they are better compared to other ingredients that are already on the market. We have, so I will give a short examples of the products that we have already. So one is DRAGONCELL. It's derived from a plant species that's in Europe close to extinction. So it's impossible actually to get the plant in the wild. So our technology is the only way how we can access that plant and the valuable compounds that the plant is producing. So, and here on the slide, you also see that we have those different applications like anti-aging, anti-inflammatory, anti-rosacea. This is really the data that we have generated, and that requires a lot of R&D resources, but it's really crucial for our client to know and to have exact those testing data so that they can choose the ingredient. And this specific ingredient, it's patent protected. So we went through, you will have a conversation about intellectual property. So with this ingredient, we went through a PCT patenting procedure, and we have already in the Latvian patent granted, but there is a global application as well. The other ingredient is a very interesting plant cell line that's established from juniper. And you know that juniper is a very valuable medicinal plant, but it's slowly growing. It's a shrub, and it requires years to grow. Compared to that, we can, in a couple of weeks, produce a cell mass, and from that cell mass, we produce different very nice ingredients, and that's how we have already proven that they have anti-UV activity, the protecting skin. They promote collagen synthesis in the skin, and has also antimicrobial activity. We have combined, and the third product is a combination, but we have an option if we have a cell line and we have an extract from the cell line, we have an option to combine the ingredient from one cell line with ingredients from other cell lines or other conventional extracts as well. So we can have a complementary synergistic activities. And so by combining different products, different ingredients together, we develop the new ones with a very specific and very targeted activities. And we have one case that's already a product that's clinically tested and shown very good results in clinical study for anti-acne application. And then another, like our ongoing products, is we're continuously not only launching the products, but we're continuously working to develop our portfolio. So and we're focusing on specific biotechnological ingredients, mainly on the plant cells, but we have some other ideas, and we have tried some other extracts from other different sources of active ingredients, as spirulina, for example, and then another 2 cell lines that are being tested right now for their activities against specific skin conditions, and will be launched next year. Of course, we're not the only ones working with this kind of technology, and given from the experience, you really need to know what are your unique selling points and what's unique for your company and for your products. And that's why we continuously follow up our competitors, and both technology wise and product wise, because how we compete is one way we compete with the technology, because there are very few companies actually working in this field. This is really a new field, but we know them, those who are working. We compare the technology, and we know what we can scale more efficiently, how we can build our own bioreactors to be more cost effective. So this is not something that we're directly selling, but that contributes to our competitiveness, that we can produce something cheaper or more efficiently. And on the other hand, there is a competition product-wise, where actually cosmetic manufacturers to whom we provide our ingredients, say if they're developing a new product, they go through hundreds or even thousands of active ingredients that they're screening for application and considering to choose them for inclusion in the products or not. What we compete with our data about that, how our ingredients work. So that's why, and that substantiates our big focus on generating those efficacy claims and testing how ingredients work. That if we have strong data and we have scientifically proven data that this, for example, increases collagen production, then we're having a very strong position against many other active ingredient producers. The market is very big, and we're not aiming to stop with the cosmetics market. Cosmetics market is a very nice market to launch the first products, because there are lower regulatory barriers. That is, we still need like a cytotoxicity, mutagenicity testing. We need all the safety tests, but still it requires much less resources than pharma, medical devices, and food industry. So you can get faster to the market, and you can show the traction faster to the investors and to other stakeholders. But knowing this and gathering all that experience with the cosmetic industry and improving the technology, improving the quality management systems within the company, we clearly see that within some years we will be more mature enough to target other industries like pharmaceutical and food, for example. Where really I want to emphasize once again that most of the people, they if they hear something about the plants, they think it's just some like a traditional medicine. It is not so, because
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you?
Yes, sure.
Some people are in waiting list still, and can you please give them access? Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, we will look into that. I will see what I can do. Sorry, Anna, you can continue.
Sorry. Okay. So we're clearly seeing opportunities to expand to those markets as well, but it requires much more resources and much more investment. So we want to show traction, that we can already sell ingredients that are working. So we'll be showing that traction, and we have started to show that traction in cosmetic industry. So afterwards there will be options to target other industries, and there is an interest from other industries as well. How did we start, and how did we get to where we are today? So it all started in 2017 when we had this idea in our mind. We started to play around the idea. We started some simple experiments, and there was an option to apply for a funding and for an international accelerator. That's SOSV. SOSV is an Irish-American venture capital fund that's focused on different fields, but one of them is biotechnology. So we applied, and we were attractive for them. So they invested actually at a very, very early stage. They invested in our company, $100,000 US, and it really gave a push because what they also provided was not only the investment, but it was mentoring, and they also provided in Cork in Ireland a laboratory space in University College Cork. That for 3 months we worked there, and that allowed not only to develop a business to start attracting the next investments, but also to develop actually the product prototypes. Due to the high sustainability of the technology, that it's really nice and not resource demanding, we actually 2 times we got funded by the Climate Kick. That's an European Institute of Technology program that supports green technologies and sustainable technologies. And all that together, that allowed us, after just a very short and very intensive first year, just after a year in 2018, to launch the first version of our first product, DRAGONCELL. That's actually after 1 year, we started already generating some small but early revenues, and we showed some traction. Also, the local Latvian fund, Build It Latvia, they invested in the company, and their investment, on the other hand, allowed us to establish a pilot manufacturing facility, because it is very crucial for us that we do not. The situation for us is that we do not have ready to buy and ready to use bioreactors for these technologies. So we actually developing also the manufacturing infrastructure ourselves, and that was really crucial, that we have our own pilot manufacturing site that's now actually fully operational, and there we produce everything that we provide to our clients. And we have then several other projects that helped us to proceed with scaling of the technology, implementation of the quality management system. We just started a dermatological study. I can share a link, so if someone wants to be still a panelist, like a volunteer in that study, you can participate in the study as well. And we're having given all that experience, and given also very significant with the competencies in this claim substantiation of ingredients, that led us to negotiations with one global partner, and hopefully soon we will have a global launch of ingredients together with one global partner, but that's still under progress. And the aim, and we're now working also to attract the next round of investments, is to scale the production capacity. We clearly see, and we have a clear roadmap what needs to be improved in the technology, and of course also for the business development to launch the next products, also not only here regionally but globally. The aim is to become a serious player in cosmetic ingredients market, specifically among those players who are providing biotechnological ingredients. And to do that, we need to improve our product portfolio, and we're also working on to, within a couple of years, to get from the 3 products that we have right now to at least 8 to 10 products in the portfolio, very well-performing products that will also, of course, contribute to our turnover and revenues. So we have a pilot manufacturing site here in Latvia, in Riga. It's quite small, but very conveniently localized, and we have already now the capacity to produce 100 liters per month, but we're aiming to at least 5x scale it up in this year already. Yeah, we have, as I mentioned, but I will go into the details we have, and I would encourage everyone working specifically in a biotech area to look into public funds and the public grants, because we have several of them. You can see it provides really a significant funding for R&D activities, and it really accelerates the launch of new products. And many investors also, especially those from the Europe, they also see this as a beneficial aspect, that we are competent enough to attract public funding, because they clearly see that with the public funding we can cover the R&D costs, so the private investment will be more focused on business development, IP protection, and infrastructure building. So currently we are a team of 6, but actually since this week 2 other ladies will be joining the team that have worked on like some external projects with us, but they will join on a regular agreement, because we need to extend the capacity, and that's all associated with scaling of our technology and scaling of the business as well. So that's very shortly about what we're doing, what was our experience in building the company. So I will be happy to answer your questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Anna. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions, you can either unmute yourselves or you can use the chat. Experience shows that the chat is a preferred method. So we'll see if anyone has any questions. Actually, in the meanwhile, I have a kind of a question. And I remember Martin, your co-founder, mentioning that the application to the SOSV fund, I think it's called Rebel Bio, was kind of a last night decision for you. So the whole thing that kind of started this financing streak, is it a myth, or is it just he being like trying to be tough, or is it true?
It was very interesting, because SOSV at that early stage, and I encourage everyone thinking about applying to the investment. It's very different from applying to public funding, for example, because how we got accepted is actually we got accepted with one tweet. It means that to start the application, there was just a window where, to catch their attention, we needed to write a short, like a sentence. It's 140 signs. It's really like a tweet. What describes your technology, your company, and why should we consider investing in you? So we wrote what we thought. We wrote about the cellular farming, about access to inaccessible resources, etc. And actually, we were lucky that the managers of the fund, they started communicating with us even before we had filled in all the other parts of the application, because we just filled in that initially. It's not an easy decision, because I think the world has changed, and now many things are just virtual. But that in 2017, it meant that for 4 months we had to relocate to another country to be full-time there, to work there. And it is tricky, because if you have started something here, you have already some lab experiments and etc. You need to replan all of that. But it was a quick decision, but it's for I would say Western European and especially American funds we have talked to. It's really, you have to they make decisions fast, and you have to follow. You need to make decisions fast. So it was I would not say it's a last night, but it was close to that. But it was given the very short timeline as well.
Nice. So this is how a carefully formulated needs statement can really change a lot in the course of a project. So we spent quite a lot of time with the participants doing the needs statements, and I think we are being hated a little bit for that already. But that's poison case, actually.
Mhm.
I see there are a couple of questions in the chat.
Mhm.
Can you see those? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a question if we are interacting with universities. Yes, we are, and on a regular, and I would say a constant basis. That's in Latvia, we're collaborating with University of Latvia, and we're collaborating also with the Institute of Organic Synthesis. In University of Latvia is a very significant partner in testing and this in vitro testing and substantiation of this efficacy claims that where we, and given our knowledge, and actually I'm a lecturer at University of Latvia as well, so I'm interacting all the time with researchers at university, and we have agreements within the project. So we now have one mutual research project that's a collaboration between alternative plants and University of Latvia, where we are developing new products. And with Institute of Organic Synthesis, they have a really strong competence in characterization of plant-derived compounds, and that's the focus of our collaboration. So it's actually also, we have several agreements, and one of them is active right now as well, that where they're actually analyzing our newly developed products and characterizing what's in there and characterizing the molecules that are there and how they would act as well. So yeah, but part of the research we're doing ourselves, like, but some of the studies, they require a very specific and expensive equipment that's usually universities and research institutions just own that equipment, and that's normal for biotech companies to collaborate with universities. Okay, I hope I answered the question. And yeah, and there's another question. I read it, how difficult it was to convince investors for the first round of funding. I will say you that, and it's well known, and I have talked with several other startup companies and read a lot of reviews and opinions. It's actually quite easy to convince the very first investors. With the idea that this Wally is between the first investor and the next investor. It's because the first investor, they're really that's why they're called venture. If they're pre-seed venture investors, they really risk, they take up a big risk, but that's their strategy, that they want to be first in some very promising, sometimes very crazy ideas. And then you start developing a product, and you might run out of the money that the first investor has invested in you, but you still do not have the product that's ready enough so that you can start selling it. So the death Wally actually is to get the next investment, so that you do not just die with the first investment. So, and that's why, that's very crucial, that our first investors also, they thought that sometimes did not seem reasonable at that very early stage, but they also times they emphasize that it's very necessary to start fundraising actually just soon after our first investment, because if you're not selling and you're still developing something, you can run out of the money quite quickly. But it's how we convinced is actually, and what we have had an experience with communicating and pitching to some United States very well-known and top 3 funds. And what do they evaluate at the early stages is team. That means that if you have a very strong team that with complementary skills, that even if your product fails, even if you fail to develop your prototype, you will find a way how to develop something other, you'll find a way how to pivot. But it's very crucial, and you have to show that you have a very strong team and that you have a mutual trust between the team members. There are some, I can tell even there are some, I know that during those communications, we see some tricks actually that they are doing that with switched off cameras, and where you need to switch on camera and be all the founders in the same place, and etc. So it's all the investors say that primarily it's team at the early stage that they look at. Yes, so there's another, what has been the most challenging task so far? The challenges and the challenge, it depends also very from the personality. For me and my co-founders, I think a very big challenge is that being that we have some experience in business, but we have a very comprehensive background in science. It's to shift and say stop. That this product is already developed. We need to start selling it. Because if you have a scientist's mindset that you will always see some gaps and I need to improve this and I need to improve that aspect, I need to characterize that a little bit, it's to start selling because and to start communicating with the customers. It's sometimes for the early stage founders, it's very difficult to like be confident enough that yeah, I have just a very clumsy prototype, but I need to go to talk to my potential customers and clients. But you really need to do that. You really need to go and talk to them because within your team, within your like a small group, you will never see the aspects that your customer can see and the feedback that they can give. So that's, and it was challenging also about the products, and it's you have to admit failures because initially we were thinking and we were planning to launch completely different product that was from another plant cell line, and we run several tests. I really believed in that because there are some data that substantiated that, and then we ran the tests on the cell culture and nothing worked. And that's very painful. Actually, you have invested a lot of time in testing that, in planning all, and then it fails. You have to pivot. You have to choose another cell line to work. But it's better if you feel that it's not working. It's better to make the decision really fast. So it's there is a saying that fail fast, and failing fast is really beneficial. The faster, the sooner you see your mistakes and your failures and you admit them, it will be easier to move on and be more successful, for example, with other products or other versions of the technology and etc. And unexpected challenge, I don't even know. It's you have to expect anything in a startup. So yeah, so unexpected, nothing very particular comes in the mind. So there is another question. About the advantages of isolated compounds versus synthesized. There is a trick that those compounds that we are isolating, first of all, we're not isolating pure compounds. It's a mixture of compounds. And one thing that we have proven is that they work synergistically. That's, for example, if you have rosmarinic acid with a chlorogenic acid in a mixture, they will work differently as each of those compounds alone. That's one thing. Another thing is that some of those compounds from plants, they are still, and if you look in the catalogs and the databases of the compounds, it's very expensive and efficient, and it's impossible to synthesize them using organic synthesis. So most of them are still derived from the plants. And there are some approaches that try to synthesize plant-derived ingredients using other biotechnological approaches, like using recombinant yeast or recombinant bacteria. But it is not a recombinant protein. It's a synthesis pathway that involves sometimes even 10 different reactions, and it's very difficult, and it's not efficient to make that recombinant bacteria to do that. It's better to use some specific protocols. As I mentioned, we tried different growth conditions, different light conditions, temperature regimes, different like compounds added to the cultivation media to boost the production in the plant cells itself. Because the plant cell, it already has all the genetic information to express and synthesize that. And given, if we compare regarding biological activities of synthesized ingredients, so there are some ingredients that I would say we might compete regarding like those performance claims. But that's why we're looking into mechanisms, how those ingredients act on the skin cells, how they act on the immune cells, and we are identifying, and what we're focusing on are the specific activities. And even maybe in some cosmetic products, our ingredients can be used together with some synthetic ingredients if the cosmetic manufacturer wants to do that or has some reason to do that. But the focus is to show specifically what our ingredients are doing. But as I mentioned, it's very difficult to the same compounds in the same concentrations actually to efficiently synthesize using organic chemistry. So there's another, how difficult it was to get legally plant material from the, there is a very clear procedure. We have approval and we have a permission from the local authorities. So in Latvia, it's Latvijas dabas pārvalde that we're in communication with, and that means that we write an official letter to them and they give a permission. And that permission also includes the mandatory procedures that, for example, we have to assure that where we take from that biotop, where we take the plant samples, that it's not damaged, that after a year, that I think it's on annual basis, we go or another certified botanist goes to that biotop and just monitors what is the situation in the biotop and if the biotop is not damaged. So it's we do not do that on our own. It's just when we get the permission, then we can do that. Yeah. Okay, hope I answered.
All right, very nice. Since there are no more questions, I wanted, on behalf of everybody, I wanted to thank you, Anna, once again. It was really amazing. And count me in as the volunteer for the dermatological study, for sure.
Sorry, we have a gender imbalance because sorry, from a dermatologist's point of view, this study will be focused on women. Sorry.
All right, maybe next one.
Next one, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I will reclaim the host now. Cool. So I think alternative plants is a great example of how solving a very specific set of challenges can really bring you on a track to a lot of growth and a lot of exciting opportunities. And it also ties up nicely with what Catherine Tubb from RethinkX was telling you on the first winter session. If you remember, she spoke about the booming industry of the cell culture and synthetic protein cultivation. So here you have the chance to witness the actual startup that's actually doing one of those things. Okay. So next up, we will have a mini lecture on intellectual property. Because first of all, we thought that this is one of the topics that really gets overlooked a lot, especially with people who are involved in with technology, and also because incidentally one of our team members, Igor, is a law professional by academic training, and so I will give the floor to him and also make him the host.
Thank you. Andrei, are you making me host? I'm still the host, I think.
Yeah, just a second.
Okay, I'm a host.
Here you go.
Okay. Okay, guys. I think it was a great presentation from Anna. And it was also nicely how she discussed certain intellectual property. And I would like to go deeper, a little bit deeper into the subject. So I would like also to stress out that I am not a patent lawyer, though I have a good general understanding of intellectual property, how it works. But when it comes to patents, and specifically patents, those I would say are most important when it comes to technological startups, technological ideas. They would require a specialized professional to do it properly. Okay, first of all, what is intellectual property? And what the difference is? There is a physical property like houses, machines, in a factory, cars, the bioreactors. This is all physical property. On the other hand, intellectual property is something that is creation of a mind. So it could be both inventions, it could be literary and artistic works, designs, symbols, also images that are used in a commercial, with a commercial purpose. And why it's important? First of all, it's necessary to develop anything new, any new technologies, because if you talk about, let's say, biotech or medicine or pharmacology, basically any technological developments, it requires efforts to build it. It requires effort. Let's say if you have a trademark, you need to invest into people recognizing your trademark, knowing that who you are, that you develop quality. So every part of intellectual property requires certain investment, not necessarily financial, but also time of professionals, but of course also financial contributions. So to help those who are willing to undertake and develop new ideas, the IP is created to protect them and reap benefits from their ideas. What are the types of intellectual property? There are 4 major types. Trademark, which is a simple Coca-Cola name. Coca-Cola, everybody knows what's Coca-Cola. That's a trademark. A copyright. It's we won't be touching much in a let's say biotech sphere with copyright unless you are developing some texts that you want to protect, like a guidebooks or student books. But normally copyright is meant to protect literary works such as books, artistic creations, etc. What we mostly focus are trade secrets. It's a one area of intellectual property protection. And what is a trade secret specifically? I will go a bit deeper here. This is confidential information that the company has. It doesn't disclose it, which is a base of its business. Going back again to Coca-Cola, the secret formula of Coca-Cola was never patented. It's kept as a secret. And the nice part about trade secret, it's unlimited in time. If patents, usually they have 20 years limitation, after which they expire. In case of trade secrets, it can last forever as long as it stays secret. And specifically, what is, I would say, most important part when it comes to biotech is a patent. And patent is an exclusive right granted to an invention. An invention could be a process, it could be a device. So it's something that offers a new solution to a problem. And the patent gives the person who owns the patent exclusive right, a monopoly, to use, make, sell, or import the invention. And here you can see the image. It's from a patent application of CRISPR. So that's a short drawing explaining what's CRISPR process is all about. There are 2 types of patents: design patent and utility patent. Design patent is something we will not focus. This is more about visual characteristics of a product. Let's say the shape of Coca-Cola bottle initially was protected by design patent. We'll focus mostly on utility patent. And utility patents, it's technical information about invention that is made public during patent application. And it has certain criteria that has to be fulfilled in order to be granted protection. First of all, it has to be useful. So it has to solve some kind of problem. Second of all, it should be novel. And this is something I would go a little bit deeper here. So it must be new in respect to prior art. And prior art includes everything that was disclosed publicly before. It could be previous patents. It could be some explanations given in a public lectures, textbooks, basically anywhere which is available to the public could be considered a prior art. And this is important because, for example, if you develop a new idea in the field of biotech and you make a presentation in public about your idea before you file for patent, it might potentially invalidate your patent claim in the future. This is something to keep in mind, especially if you're working on a high-tech ideas. So what do you share with the public and what you should not be sharing, and keep it, let's say, only to limited amount of people who you share it with in confidential conditions. And the last criteria is obviousness, which is, I mean, it sounds pretty obvious. Invention must not be obvious, but again, this is a bit tricky. It's in legal terms, it doesn't specifically describe what is not obvious, but basically what's understood is that any person that is knowledgeable about the area field of a patent should not see what you're coming up. Your invention is obvious. There is no clear definition what specifically would it be, but it's all about a patent examiner to decide whether your idea is obvious or not. There are few resources when you need when it comes to prior art, where you can look what is already what already exists in patents. My personal preference is a Google Patents. I believe they're most convenient and provide you with a very nice tools to search by inventor, keywords, and it's a good start to do your, let's say, patent search. And here I'd like also to mention freedom to operate, which is an important term in the sense of that whenever you develop something, usually you're not building your, let's say, your device, your machine, your idea is not 100% original. It uses some previous knowledge. So here you might face a situation when you are using someone else, you're infringing someone else's patent, you're using someone else's idea. For example, you're building a new bioreactor, but you use some special material that you cover, let's say, bioreactor with. So you need to license this material, and theoretically, this person, the company who owns the patent, can limit you from doing so. This is something you should look into before and to see what's available, which patents I'm potentially infringing with my idea. Can I license this part that I need to use? Because potentially what you can face a situation when you develop a product, but you're not allowed to sell it because you have infringed someone else's patent. So in the end, I would like give a few practical tips. First of all, patents are valid for a set number of years. So you should think, first of all, when you apply. So once you apply, the clock starts ticking. So maybe not rush with applying for patent, because besides being limited in time, they're also quite expensive. And it becomes more expensive with each, let's say, each period, each territory you want to apply, you want to extend it to, and you need to pay unless you lose actually your right to extend the patent to certain territories, or you can lose the whole patent if you're not unable to keep on paying the fees. So it's easy to file a patent, but it becomes expensive and quite time consuming to upkeep it and develop it further. as I said, be careful about sharing technical details of your invention if you're planning to patent it. And if you have to share, sometimes you have to share, let's say, with an investor, ask for non-disclosure agreement. But again, it could be tricky with some investors. Sometimes they're not willing to sign it. But then you should be really careful what you want to present and so you can describe your idea without actually disclosing the information, which is the core that you want to patent. One more thing that you also think about, especially many of you are working in universities, if you're using lab equipment in your university might have the claim at least partial claim on your invention. So if you do so, know what you're doing, clarify what's happening, and what's your legal situation. It's very similar also if you're working for a company and you develop something in your free time. In the end, you might have to share this invention with the company, or even the company might keep the whole invention, even if it was done in your free time, let's say in after work hours. And finally, think about your IP strategy early on. You might not need to file a patent or look for a trademark, but you have to think about it because, let's say, when it comes to investors, they will be asking you these questions. You don't have to present, let's say, patents that are drafted because it costs money. It costs legal fees and other related to this fees. But you should be able to show, okay, this is an invention. This part we want to patent. We already did some checks. We can patent it. We're not violating anybody else's patent with this. Well, guys, thank you. This is a short summary. As I said, I'm not a patent lawyer, but if you have some questions, I'll be happy to answer them at least as much as I can share my knowledge to the degree I have it.
So while people are thinking, first of all, thank you. So I have a question right away because I prepared it. I knew it in advance. But seriously then, if let's say I have a startup and I am deciding what to do with the intellectual property, and there are a couple of options as we see. So for example, I can just keep it a trade secret, or I can try to patent it. What would be the main kind of criteria if you were deciding between those two things, to keep it a secret or to have a patent?
Well, when it comes to the secret, it's a good question. Will you be able to keep it a secret? Maybe once you start doing it, everybody, if it's a methodology that you're using, everybody sees your final product, they understand, and they can easily copy it. So this question, what can you protect? And it's, again, the best answer, it depends in the situation, as any lawyer will tell you. I would say when you talk, if you want to license let's say your idea or sell it to someone, it's easier to sell a patent than a trade secret, because patent is it's protected by the government, and it's relatively easy to execute against anyone who tries to violate it. But then again, trade secret is theoretically free of charge. You don't have to pay. You just keep it secret. But patents could be very expensive.
Thank you. So with a trade secret, you are stuck with this kind of dilemma. It's in order to enforce it, you kind of need to disclose it, right? So once there is kind of a dispute for a trade secret, how do you actually how do you prove that you have a trade secret unless you disclose the trade secret? Or am I digging too deep?
Well, this is a bit tricky, yes, because if someone actually doing it, it's not anymore a trade secret. Someone knows your secret. It's not a secret anymore. So it's how do you, so you cannot enforce it against anybody. All you can do is keep it a secret. Let's say the good example is Coca-Cola formula, because kind of everybody knows what the final product is, but no one knows what is the exact measurement they use in the ingredients to let's say, produce this specific taste. For them, for example, they decided, okay, they could have filed a patent and had a protection for 20 years, stop everybody from producing anything similar. But they chose, okay, we'll keep it a secret. And I mean, you may say they're quite successful in it. And we have a limited protection. And let's say other people try to do it. Let's say Pepsi, but is it the same taste? I mean, that's a big debate, I would say. Oh, there is a question from Agris. If the patent is regional, then in other regions, we can copy and sell it. Yes, patents are generally regional. They're very territorial. So meaning if you have a patent in Latvia, you only have exclusive rights for this invention in Latvia, meaning no one else can sell it here, produce it here, import. Basically, on this territory, you have the exclusive rights.
So then, if you opt for a patent in one country as opposed to a worldwide patent, if someone else, let's say you have a Latvian company that does something and produces something, and they have a Latvian patent, so nobody can do that in Latvia. But then let's say if someone in China does the same thing and sell it in the US, they are fine to do that if you're not covered by a worldwide patent.
A few things I need to clarify here. When we say world patent, it doesn't mean if you get a world patent, you have a whole world covered. It's a tool that once you have a world patent, you can actually extend it to certain territories. So you, like by itself, it doesn't give you much. It only gives you the right to extend it to, then you can choose, okay, my biggest market is US. So I want it to be in US. And I want also to cover China because I don't want Chinese to produce it. So you only cover these two jurisdictions. Because for every country you want to extend the patent to, every let's say, jurisdiction, you have to pay quite a lot. And you have to pay pretty much all the time to upkeep the patent. So it becomes expensive. So it becomes like really, really expensive. So this is the IP strategy. It's a good topic to discuss. And sometimes companies they only take certain countries where they know the competition is. For example, they want to eliminate the competition, so the competition cannot copy them, and they know, okay, in the other countries I don't have to worry about. Or they take the biggest market where they sell. So that's tricky. So yeah, if someone else, if you are not, let's say, if you have a patent in Europe, and then Chinese, yes, they can produce in China and sell to US. What they cannot do, at least in theory, once you file a patent, it becomes public domain. So no one else can apply and get the same patent. So so everybody can use it, but in other territories, unless you claim them. But no one else can prohibit also you from, let's say, selling to China. You don't need to have a patent in China to sell there. See it as like a monopoly rights. So if you have a patent in a certain territory, you're a monopoly in this territory for this certain product or invention. Okay, guys, any more questions? I know it's maybe a little bit too early when it comes to our ideas, but I would say it's a good to start thinking from the very beginning what is, let's say, patentable, what is already someone else has patented, and what you can patent yourself. Okay. You don't get royalties by default. Okay, the question is, do you get royalties when someone tries to mimic your patent? No, by default, you don't get any royalties. What you can do, you can sue that person. You can go to court, and if that person is in violation of your patent, you can actually you can get damages from that person, that company. But what you can do with your patent, you can license it to other people. You can, and then you get royalties. Yes, then you can get like license fees, called like license fees. Royalties are more with copyrights, but yes, you need to be able to enforce it. So this is a trick. For example, if you're a small company that you're and you go in a patent row with a big company with a lot of money that can hire a lot of expensive lawyers, you have to have financial resources to enforce your patent. It's not enough just that you are granted a patent. You have to be able to enforce it against others. And it also costs lots of money. I know if you've been following in US, this can cost millions and millions when it comes to, say, Apple and Samsung, when they had a fights about patents. It was the guys who made most of the money there, I think it was the lawyers, actually. Sometimes, I mean, the nice part about the patent is that in theory, okay, maybe I'll maybe rephrase it. You have to think about it also from a perspective of potential investors. Because when they invest in a company, when anybody invests in a company, they want to get their money probably 5 times or 10 times or 100 times what they invest. And a patent, it's a way for them to see that you, first of all, you have to, if you can show them that that's my intellectual property, that's how we plan to earn money. And this is pretty clear that if you have a patent, at least that you have some idea that you want, that's innovative, that you potentially can develop. If you don't have a patent, it doesn't mean that your business not going to succeed. But then you have to be able to explain and persuade whoever gives you money. And I'm talking specific, in particular about, say, biotech and high-tech companies. How are you going to protect yourself? Imagine you spend 5 years, like alternative labs, they spend 5 years developing their product and spend lots of money doing this. And if they don't have patents, anyone with a big degree in biology, they'll just copy it. And without, I mean, then they can make it much cheaper because they don't have any R&D costs. So that would be unfair. That's why patents are important and are protected. So in their case, for example, they have these bioreactors, and maybe they can keep the way they produce, the way their reactors are built, a trade secret. For example, maybe that's their strategy. I mean, I don't know. We should ask next time we have a chance. All right, guys, any more questions? You can always reach us by email if you have specific questions about IP. And if not, Andrei, I give the host back to you. I guess, I don't know, how do I do it?
I will reclaim it. Thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, we have the third part of our session in front of us, but I'll keep it short. I know it's already quite late. So let me share the screen again. All right. Wow, I'm really purple. So the last part is about the next steps and deliverables. And as you already probably have guessed, we are way past the halfway point in this year's Biocatalyst Innovation Lab. So the first part was mostly about the setup, about the lectures, the sessions, the team building, the searching for the needs and screening the needs. And so now comes the meatier part, as in meat, as in fleshy part. So now it's the time where you roll up the sleeves and do the work. And as you can see from this little scheme we have here, we have a couple of steps in front of us. So the first step you already know about. This is the need report. This is something that we're expecting by the end of March. And you should have gotten the email with the specific instructions. If you haven't, if any of the teams haven't seen it yet, please reach out to us after this session and we will send you the details. The reason why we need the need report is that it basically forms almost half of your final pitch. So what you will do in the final presentation is summarize the need report, and that will be like the first couple of slides that you're presenting. And it's important for you to understand the problem that you'll be tackling as deeply as possible, and to try to formulate it in a not too long, in a not very long text. So after we're clear about the problem that we are trying to solve and all the background information, we will be working on solutions. So yeah, finally solutions. That's going to be April, and you will have mentors to help you with that. The list is still being finalized. For example, just to give you a sneak peek, for example, we'll have the director of the MBA program of Riga Business School as one of the mentors. So we have some really awesome people waiting to help you with your work on solutions and brainstorming and pitching. And in the second part of April, you will mostly switch to work on your presentations, or as we like to call it, pitches. So it's the kind of investor style definition. Because the final jury, they are going to be acting a little bit like, so they are going to be looking at your work from as if they were investors. They are going to ask questions and they're going to evaluate your ideas and the way you chose your need and the way you formulate your solution. And in the early May, we will have the finals. So that will be an online session where every team will present their solution. And we will give you, of course, much more information as we progress. But as you already know, there will be a jury of the representatives of our corporate and academic partners. And there will be an award part, and there will be the diplomas and a little online banquet, at least like that. So a couple of words more about the need report. This is a document that you need to prepare that covers everything that you can cover about the need that you've chosen. So the background information, the solutions or alternatives, the stakeholders. So who are the parties? Who are the users? Who are the parties who can help you with realizing the solution, and who can potentially stop you from doing that, and who might be paying for the solution. So those might not be the same people as the ones who will be using the solution in some cases. And also the market for the potential solution. And note that we are still not talking about a specific solution. We are just talking about a set of solutions to your specific need in general. So you still, in ideal scenario, you're still not thinking about something very specific in terms of solutions, but you're still looking at your need, your problem, and trying to answer those or cover those items without looking at a particular solution. And it is possible, so try to do that. And it's maximum 2 pages. And an important note, it will be shared with the mentors and the jury. So this is not just an internal document, so please try to make it well written and concise. The deadline, as I said, is the 31st of March. So this is next Wednesday, end of day. Please upload it to the Google Drive folder for your team. If your team cannot access the Drive folder for some reason, please also contact us. And once again, just to remind you, we do have the regular office hours on Mondays and Wednesdays, or you can just reach out to us using emails. So we are always open to help you and to answer your questions. And so the next step is, as you already probably heard a lot of times from us, is to go deeper into your problems and needs. and to try to really understand them and internalize them. And we are really eager and excited to see what kind of solutions you will come up with. And we'll of course support you along the way. So are there any questions? That's it on our end. If you have any specific questions right now, you can either use the chat or unmute yourself. All right, cool. No questions. If they appear, reach out to us. We'll discuss anything you have in mind. Other than that, once again, thank you everybody for joining at this late hour in the middle of the week, and have a very cool and energetic week ahead and a cozy weekend ahead. Thanks and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks.